hardcore, post-hardcore, metalcore, grindcore, mathcore, easycore, cottagecore. SASSCORE. A brand of furious, aggressive hardcore music highlighted, perhaps loosely, by a couple key distinguishing factors from the sea of hardcore music that surrounds it. Nobody knows what it is. Wikipedia describes it as, quote, characterized by often incorporating overtly flamboyant mannerisms, erotic lyrical content, synthesizers, dance beats, and a lisping vocal style. That's a concept that has always interested me. Masculinity and hardcore go hand in hand, right? Well, not really. A lot of the all-time great stuff that involves bands playing incredibly loudly and screaming at the top of their lungs has quashed that notion. The band Botch is perhaps responsible for metalcore as we know it. There's a genuine argument to be made that their 1999 masterpiece, We Are the Romans, is responsible for just like the entire f***ing genre. Along with Converge's Jane Doe and a handful of other select records, the band essentially etched the Rosetta Stone for a subgenre that would come to dominate the likes of Warped Tour, countless iPods, and many a sweaty music venue over the next 2 decades. Botch would, of course, eventually be heralded as the heroes they always should have been heralded as. Countless bands gracing the aforementioned stages would attempt to channel their sound, yet that wasn't always the case. Botch took joy in picking apart hypocrisies and fashionable trends of the scene that they found themselves in. Some of the more negative reception of the band in their heyday fell on a couple relevant points to our story today. Part of Botch's ethos is their self-described existence as a boy band, with one notorious shirt sold during their initial run cataloging them as the best one ever, right below a picture that I'm gonna have to censor. One that you can Google all on your own that might help show you where I'm going with the whole defying straightforward masculinity bit here. They made a conscious effort to poke fun against all the typical skull and switchblade imagery that was prevalent at the time. Songs like Japan stick out to me as not only on-face deconstructions of a certain breed of drug addict, but sarcastically dissecting a breed of decidedly macho damage inflicted on the world around someone. Yet there exists a cluster of bands and artists that some people have described as applying this particular notion to their sonic palette. In some people's opinion, actively lashing out against this notion of masculinity through defying it within their sounds at the most basic level. Do I think this? Do I think this is what SASSCORE entails as a key building block, an essential piece to building a SASSCORE record? At least I wouldn't have thought that before I began to make this video. A lot of the certified SASSCORE bands that people tend to agree upon do touch upon some similar messaging. The ways in which Botch paint caricatures and masculinity could easily be seen reverberating through the Blood Brothers' career, and Orchid's later material certainly didn't take it easy on the scathing social commentary. But if I were to define SASSCORE as anything before writing this, I would take it at its root: sassy hardcore. Shredding, ear-piercing screams counteracted with a nasally, high-pitched croon from the depths of hell. A flavor for dance beats and melodrama to be the follow-up left hook to the right jab of pure destruction. I could easily see why people are hesitant to even call this a subgenre. There are tons of bands that one person could put that label on that others would balk at the thought of prescribing it to them. That new Callous Cowboys album might have some aspects of it within it. And yes, if you're wondering, this is just an excuse to talk about that record, Celebrity Therapist. You need to listen to it. It is so fucking good. Oh my god. But I don't think I would go all the way to adding them to the Wikipedia entry. Dillinger Escape Plan always took shots at societal norms and painted pictures of traditionally masculine figures in the worst situations they could ever find themselves in. But I think people might burn me at the stake if I were to call them SASSCORE. Yet, the more I think about it, and the more I think of the legions of like-minded bands to further embrace this sound, the more I think there may be something else there. Either way, I think I could definitely say that there is a sonic similarity to SASSCORE bands, and I hope to share a few records within there that I think are great with you. Keep in mind, this is far from a comprehensive list. It's literally just 3 albums. There are some very notable bands missing here throughout these 3 albums. Bands like See You Space Cowboy, which are, huge lately. Very, very, very freaking good. This is just meant to give you a kind of teaser. If you like what you hear, if you like the kind of, messaging that they've got going on, do a little exploring on your own. It's just a little taster, a little appetizer, little hors d'oeuvre. I'll start this list off with the most recent discovery within this subgenre that I've made, and one that I feel probably boils down the sonic aspects of SASSCORE down to its most distilled form. The red light sting will pop up on most lists online that you attempt to access to describe this sound, and for good reason. Throughout the band's criminally short discography, you'll find hallmarks of the sound written throughout the internet popping up all the time. Flamboyant mannerisms? Check. Synthesizers? Double check. Erotic song themes? Oh, massive, throbbing check. This particular record is also the most recent record from the Red Light Sting that I've dove into. Two of their projects, more akin to EPs than albums in their length, Rub 'Em Down, Rub 'Em Out, and Our Love Is Soaking in It, made regular trips to my brain throughout the last few years. There's something in their particular approach to aggressive, energized music that appeals to me in a way emblematic of this arguably existing subgenre on the whole. It's clear upon repeated listens of Hands Up Tiger that this is the band working in their most polished state. Even in their earliest material, there's a clearness and distinctive sound that doesn't so much wash over the ears as much as prick them with pinpoint precision. However, there's a clear impression of truly DIY, truly independent roughness around the edges that helps to further a ton of charm, in my opinion. One of the earliest releases you can find from them comes in the form of a split with fellow Canadians Hot Hot Heat. And while Hot Hot Heat would eventually polish themselves up to such a pristine shine that tracks like 2005's Middle of Nowhere would grace my TV screen, and still get stuck in my head all the time to this day, on this split, they match the Red Light Sting's eccentric and odd energy tit for tat. I very much love the opening track of this one by them called The Case That They Gave Me. It's an endlessly catchy track that oozes this almost naive energy, and it has an infectious keyboard line that really sticks in your head. Likewise, the Red Light Sting found themselves more polished up on Hands Up Tiger than previous efforts. However, the increased sound fidelity and more robust approach towards song structure is still in service towards providing this manic brand of sass that the band has managed to cultivate to this point. The first track, We Put the Hot Tub in the Back of a Truck, gets especially melodic, even for a band that hasn't exactly ever abandoned the notion of providing their own twisted, tweaked out version of pop hooks. Likewise, the fourth track here is a straight up ballad, a particularly pretty one, presuming that you're down like I am for this brand of vocal delivery pioneered not only by bands like this, but acts like the Blood Brothers. Yes, I keep mentioning them, we'll come back to them. Q and Not You, and a couple others, further sanded down a bit into the landscapes of mainstream emo and emo revival. This ear for pop may be something that also discerns SASSCORE, as a lot of the certified SASSCORE records clearly like to delve a bit deeper into pop sensibility. However, the record also shines with tracks like Those Bees All Have Paws and the second track, Punch the Lights Out. I'm a giant fan of the further showcasing of the band's ability to turn the apparently simple and downright palatable into some truly unique and frenzied sounds. This vaudeville hell trip here may be exactly why this subgenre is supposed to exist at all. And this part of the latter track I mentioned has been stuck in my head for a month. The more I've heard from the Red Light Sting, the more I've realized you can't really go wrong with anything the band has put out. If one song speaks to you, you're in for a fantastic bunch of tracks that will continue talking. It's great stuff. Okay, we're reaching our controversial selection. You won't see these guys on too many lists of SASSCORE that I've seen, and frankly, they seem like the type to kick you in the nuts for even trying to stoop to such a pointlessly niche level to describe them. But I'm sorry, when I'm reaching in my brain for music that's aggressive, loud, flamboyant, with tons of character, manic energy, synthesizers, and some interesting lyrics, one record really does spring to mind immediately. There's an official music video that you can check out for one of the tracks off this album on the official 31G Records YouTube channel that, well, I'll let it speak for itself. This is 23 lubed-up schizophrenics with delusions of grandeur by seminal hardcore/grindcore/noisecore band The Locust, and it'll probably be done by the time I'm done talking about it. It's a fantastic sub-1 minute track that summarizes everything I love about this record up so well. All it took was one viewing of this video to just fall in love with this one. As if that wasn't good enough, there's a live video that also arrives in search history when you look it up, and I can't intro these videos to any degree better than the video itself can do it. Plague soundscapes can be pretty poetically encapsulated by this live vid. Even though this video itself runs nearly 10 times the length of some tracks on here, every piece of the puzzle you need to enjoying your time in the Locust's second studio album can be found here. The pummeling aggression of those first few hyperspeed measures, followed by noise so chaotic that you'll forget it's actually pretty intricate and detailed. The yelps of the vocalists are only so marginally more frenzied than they are on the actual record, with both versions highlighting the shrill mania present every single time a vocal line is even presented. Even down to the name, this is a track that is natural to both create legions upon legions of Locust fans, as well as probably get thousands of parents to write letters to the FCC. The Locust are and should always be bigger than some hyper-specific niche subgenre like SASSCORE, but perhaps there's no one on Earth that is simultaneously as hardcore and as sassy. Justin Pearson actually got bodied by some brutes on the fucking Jerry Springer show for being too rowdy. If that's not the ethos of this entire movement boiled into one TV clip, I really don't know what is. I think what struck me immediately about Plague Soundscapes was the way this record's approach to grit and glamour felt so emboldened, even amongst a genre that prides itself on those notions. These aren't just shrill, sassy vocals, they ring with the specific tone to elicit sheer panic. A lot of my favorite moments on this record rhythmically come from the brutality of the low end. It pummels to such a degree to almost sound atonal, but any amount of deep listening will immediately reveal layer after layer of detailed performance that is frankly ridiculous to ever imagine being played live, but they do pretty damn well. The Locust here sound like a band that would beat you up for calling them technical marvels, but they also just can't ever let you forget that they are. Plague Soundscapes is traditionally called a grindcore record, and if that's the case, this is one of the most melodic grindcore records I've ever heard. These song titles are all fantastic. Saying any of them out loud is just a delight. Personally, I've always loved anything Jesus does, I can do better. It's this delightfully eventful song squeezed into the minute-and-a-half runtime. In my mind, all the time, I swear to God, the one phrase that plays over and over again in my head: would the owner of an ounce of dignity please contact the mall security? I love it. I love it. In fact, detailing any of these tracks the way I usually would likely result in the description taking longer than the actual runtime. All I can say is if you're looking for several of your preconceived biases to be challenged when it comes to things like the tradition of song structure, intense musical stylings, or general quote-unquote good taste, this is an absolute must-listen. It has changed the way that I think about hardcore music fundamentally in ways that I'm really still trying to decipher today. I just want to take a moment here before we move on to say rest in peace to Gabe Serbian. I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you and act like I'm some giant mega fan and can speak to all of these intensely personal experiences, but the loss of Gabe Serbian is a loss of an immensely beloved and immensely gifted talent far too soon. As a fantastic drummer, but most importantly as a very obviously cherished human being first, it is a tragic loss. Oh my good word, I finally get one of those chances on this channel. One of the chances to talk about one of my all-time favorite groups ever.
Tonight's musical guest is the Blood Brothers. The Blood Brothers make music that will save us all. What a great fucking racket these guys make. This is what it's all about.
The Blood Brothers, in my mind, are everything beautiful about extreme music. The ways in which they paint sonic pictures full of this unparalleled creativity, the ways in which their descriptive, poetic lyrics channel this sense of primordial evil within human nature. These guys are absolute fucking geniuses. This whole video, the entire vibe of SASSCORE that's been previously established, in my mind, can be summarized by the near entirety of the Blood Brothers catalog. When you search this very small subgenre, they're showing up nearly every single time. Not only are they one of the chief purveyors of the sound to exist, but they are the absolute best at it. The Blood Brothers are so rare for any band because they manage to form, exist, and break up without putting out a bad album. When it comes to highlighting a specific one, however, it comes to no other album besides their absolutely premier third album, Burn Piano Island Burn from 2003. This is a record that stands so singularly important in the entire lexicon of hardcore music for me that it shouldn't really even be measured in terms of the albums around it. Yes, their preceding album, March on Electric Children, is a fantastic example of short-form aggression melding perfectly with conceptual beauty, setting the groundwork perfectly for the future expansion of their sound. Yes, their follow-up album, Crimes, may be more akin to the sound of SASSCORE on the whole, crooning like a softly singing murder victim along its runtime. However, Piano Island is here rather simply because it is just one of the most fantastic albums I've ever heard. From the opening moment signaling a fierce return to form through the delivery method of Guitar Me, there is no question about just how totally devastating this experience is going to be. Piano Island winds through its soundtrack at hyperspeed, flowing with such a fierce intensity that you'll be left flabbergasted. When ticking off the SASSCORE checklist, perhaps the Blood Brothers have never summated the style in one album as much as they've dispersed it throughout their discography and showcased it in spots. Yet perhaps there hasn't been as strong of an entire album form statement as Piano Island, echoing the genre's subversive nature through the moments where they showcase a twisted, downright diabolical form, in the form of a brief respite on Ambulance vs. Ambulance, or the deceptive serenity of Denver Max. The moments that make up the album's bread and butter, however, are relentless, furious, and sometimes terrifying. If you can find it within yourself to warm up to this album's singular brand of sheer insanity, you'll find yourself at this zenith of enjoyment that no other band on the planet can match. The shining moment in a giant bucket full of them here is, in my opinion, the song called USA Nails, a stupidly fantastic and catastrophically dramatic gut punch, capped off with one of the most cathartic screams I've ever heard recorded. Blood Brothers' entire catalog, I'll again reiterate, is fantastic. I'm particularly a huge fan of the last album they released before splitting up, Young Machetes. Their performance on the Henry Rollins Show is the stuff that makes legends.
Fire, fire, fire! Watch out with blacklist trees! Fire, fire, fire! Touch inside the smoke! Just seems on fire, fire, fire!
Just one of the most insane bands I've ever had the pleasure of hearing. So yeah, there's SASSCORE. There's a bunch of other bands that get this label, and you can be the judge as to whether or not this genre actually exists. Regardless, this potential genre has brought about some of my favorite artists and songs in my entire life. So, I don't know, let me know what you think in the comments or something. That'd be pretty cool. Remember to shower regularly and give yourself some credit. You deserve it. See ya. I usually, do channel update stuff in text form at the end, and I might still, I don't really know, but I just wanted to get this out in voice form. People have been insanely, incredibly nice about the They Might Be Giants video, and it has been super, super awesome to open up my phone and just keep scrolling through all the comments and seeing everybody's just insanely nice words and hear about your guys' experience with They Might Be Giants. That's like the whole reason I made that video, was to highlight the individual experience with that band, and I really did like pour a lot of effort and energy into that. It is insanely awesome. I keep saying insanely. Insanely. It is ridiculously awesome to see you guys just sharing your stories, being so nice, just being way too nice to me. Anyway, that has truly made my last couple days. And if you left a comment, if you watched it, you enjoyed it, if you interacted with it at all, just know that means a ton to me. It means just a ton to see a bunch of very cool people talking about very cool music. So anyway, next video is gonna be a long one. I already have the beginning of it written. I have pieces of it edited. There may be a shorter one that comes out in between it, but it's gonna take a while. So, if you like the long form content, there's more of that coming, and boy will it be long. All right. Okay, I'm gonna stop spieling now. Thank you for all the support and stuff, and yeah, thank you. Goodbye.